You don't remember when you started humming. Maybe it was out of habit, or maybe it was the only thing that kept your breath steady under the weight of your corset and the stares of strangers. Either way, you don't notice you're doing it, not until the stranger joins in. A voice, deep, low, and unmistakably certain, finishes the verse like it was written for this exact moment. You freeze. It isn't the kind of song people know anymore. A lullaby your mother once whispered when her hands were red from lie and sorrow. A tune passed down from women who had nothing else to offer their daughters except song. The train station is nearly empty now. Evening shadows stretch long across the cracked wooden floorboards, and the scent of coal smoke lingers in the rafters like an old regret. You turn slowly, heart thudding harder than it should. He's leaning near the far post, one boot crossed over the other, hat tilted low, watching you not like a man watches a woman, but like someone trying to remember a dream. Where'd you learn that? You ask, the words barely louder than your breath. He doesn't answer right away, just studies you with eyes the color of thunderclouds. You sang it once, he says finally. Near a battlefield. You didn't see me, but I heard you. It was the only thing I remembered that night. You grip the handle of your travel bag tighter. The leather's gone soft with wear. A wedding gift from a man whose last letter still smells like pipe smoke and ink, though you burned the envelope 2 days ago. I've never been to a battlefield, you whisper. He tilts his head. No, he murmurs, but grief has its own battlefields, and you've been through a few. Your throat goes dry. You feel seen in a way you didn't expect. Not by a man, not by anyone, not since the moment you stepped off the train that was supposed to take you to a new life, a new name, a house with a garden and a cradle waiting by the hearth. But you didn't board that train, and now here you are, alone at the edge of nowhere, belly rounded beneath your coat, hiding in plain sight. The stranger doesn't step closer, doesn't reach for you, just tips his hat back enough that you catch a glimpse of a scar along his jaw, faded, like an old story no one tells anymore. I remember your voice, he says. It's the kind that holds people together when everything else breaks. You want to ask his name. You want to ask how he could possibly know yours. Instead, you ask something else entirely. Why'd you come back? He shrugs once, because some promises don't die, even if they were made in silence. You feel it before you hear it, a low rumble of an incoming train in the distance, still miles out but growing, and with it the weight of choice returns. Run, stay, speak, hide. The stranger nods toward the bench behind you. You got somewhere to go? You look away. No, you answer, but I can't go back either. The whistle howls, a long, lonely sound that pierces the stillness, the kind of sound that makes even the strongest people second-guess the direction of their lives. The man folds his arms. Then maybe we sit, he says softly, and see what kind of road opens if we don't chase it too hard. You sit beside him, not close, but not far either. And the strange thing is, for the first time in days, the child inside you doesn't kick from fear. He's still, listening, just like you. If stories like this help you breathe easier, you know where to find more. You missed the train on purpose. You made sure of it. Arrived 10 minutes after the whistle, paused at the doors just long enough to make it look like you'd tried, then watched the last car disappear into the smoke and distance. Now you sit on the station bench with your hands folded in your lap like a schoolgirl waiting for punishment, except you're no child. And the life inside you makes that clearer with every passing hour. The stranger hasn't asked why. Not yet. He sits beside you in silence, sipping coffee from a battered tin cup that smells faintly of cinnamon bark and scorched beans. You catch yourself watching him when you think he isn't looking. His clothes are travel-worn but clean. A wool coat stitched with repair lines, neat ones, like a man who fixes what matters. Boots scuffed but solid. A rifle slung loosely in a canvas wrap near his side, but his hands rest nowhere near it. Safe, but not soft. And far too calm for a man who just met a runaway bride humming lullabies at dusk. The rain begins again, thin, cold drops that rattle the tin roof overhead and trace silver lines down the fogged windows of the telegraph office. You pull your shawl tighter and shift your weight. A mistake. Pain lances through your lower back. Arche on a saw. A reminder that your condition won't stay hidden forever. He notices, but says nothing. You think of the letter tucked deep in your travel bag. The one with your name scrawled in a hand you once trusted. Promises of a new start. A homestead in Utah territory. And a husband who would provide, protect, love in all the right ways, until he changed his mind, until the letter came. I'm sorry, it's not the right time. You understand, don't you? No return address, no apology worth its ink, just cold lines that erased you like a bad investment. You touch your belly, a quiet reflex now, and stare out across the tracks, empty, still wet from the earlier storm. The rails gleam like they're daring you to step across them, but you won't. Not today. Not after everything. Don't suppose you've got family nearby, the man finally says. You shake your head. They buried my mother last winter. The rest don't write. He nods like that makes sense, like he understands the shape of that kind of silence. You glance at him. What about you? He sips his coffee, then sets the cup down on the bench beside him. Left him behind when I took the uniform off. Some places don't take kindly to men who come back different. You study the way he looks at the rain, not at you. Different how? You ask. He doesn't answer right away. Different like someone who knows what it sounds like when a man begs to die in his own language, he says at last. Different like someone who couldn't stop it. You look down at your hands. Your fingers are raw from the cold, knuckles red, nails bitten too short. You've known loss, but not that kind, not yet. You whisper, I wasn't supposed to be alone. He looks at you, quiet, steady. You're not now. That shouldn't mean anything, but it does. You close your eyes and take the smallest breath, a breath that feels like the first one you've taken all day without a knife under your ribs. The next train doesn't come for 3 more hours, maybe longer. Maybe that's long enough to decide what you're really running from and what you're running toward. The first thing you notice is that your shoes are soaked clean through. Rainwater seeps between the stitching and squelches with every step, turning cold fabric into something that bites. You don't complain. You wouldn't know who to complain to, even if you tried. He walks a few paces ahead, letting you set the pace without saying so. That in itself is a kindness, not the kind you're used to, not chivalrous or showy, just quiet, solid. You walk past shuttered storefronts and boarded windows. The town is half asleep, the sort of place where nothing happens fast and everyone knows when a stranger arrives, or when a young woman shows up at the station with no escort, no husband, and a belly that speaks for itself. You keep your eyes down. He doesn't speak again until you pause outside the bakery. There is a warmth to the window, light from the hearth inside, the faint smell of rising bread. You don't have to say you're hungry. He just pulls a coin from his coat pocket, presses it into your palm, and says, "2 loaves, 1 sweet, if they've got it. I'll be here." You hesitate. "Don't worry," he adds, without looking at you. "Not going anywhere." You step inside, the bell above the door a sharp little betrayal of your quiet. The woman behind the counter takes you in with one glance. Her gaze flicks from your stomach to your shoes to the stranger outside. She wraps your bread without a word. When you step back out, the stranger is exactly where you left him. Hat tipped low, hands in his pockets, watching the street like it might tell him a secret. You offer him the smaller loaf. He takes it. Then, seeing your soaked shoulders, he shrugs off his coat and drapes it over yours without asking. The weight of it surprises you. It smells like cedar and smoke, and something faintly herbal, maybe tobacco leaf, maybe wild mint. Whatever it is, it smells like a place you haven't been yet, but already miss. You murmur, "Thank you." His mouth tilts, almost a smile. "Can't have you freezing." You take another bite of bread. It's warm and honey sweet, and you're not proud of how fast you eat it. But you haven't had real food in a day and a half. Not since you boarded the first train with trembling hands and a lie on your lips. He doesn't ask where you're going. Instead, he gestures to a side alley, a narrow path that cuts between the feed store and a stable. "There's an inn that doesn't ask questions," he says. "1 room left, but it's yours if you want it." You pause. "Why help me?" He's quiet for a beat too long, then, "Because a long time ago, someone helped me, and I never got the chance to pay that back." You step forward. "But I didn't help you." He meets your eyes. "You did, that night, with your singing. You don't remember, but I do." You believe him, not because you understand, but because something in his voice carries the weight of a truth that hasn't been spoken in years. The inn is just as he said, plain, weathered, and clean enough. The innkeeper is half asleep and barely glances at you. Your room is upstairs, end of the hall, a little slanted under the eaves. You step inside and close the door, and for the first time in a long while, you don't feel watched, or hunted, or pitied. You just feel here. You sit on the edge of the bed, remove your ruined shoes, and unwrap the second loaf of bread. You eat slower this time. When the baby shifts inside you, you press your hand to the movement. Then, out of instinct or habit or something older than both, you hum again. The same lullaby, the song your mother used to sing. But this time, you don't hum alone. From outside your window, soft and low, the stranger finishes the verse again, and this time it doesn't frighten you. It steadies you, like a memory you finally caught before it slipped away. He tells you the story the next morning, over weak coffee and bread that's gone cold in the center. You sit at the table by the window, wrapped in the same coat he gave you last night. The sleeves are too long, but the warmth remains. "You sang to soldiers?" you ask. He nods, staring into the steam rising from his cup. Not on purpose. You were singing to yourself, sitting beside a field tent, hands in your lap like you were praying. You shake your head. "I don't remember that." "You wouldn't," he says softly. "I was across the line, wounded, thought I was going to die, thought I should die." You look at him, really look, at the scar under his eye, the stillness in his shoulders, the way his hands cradle the tin cup like it holds more than coffee. "You didn't die," you say. He meets your gaze. "No," he replies, "because your song reminded me I wasn't already gone." The silence after that isn't awkward. It's full, like morning fog that settles low before lifting. You want to ask him why he never said anything before, why he didn't find you sooner. But you're not sure those questions would be fair or helpful. Instead, you tell him the truth. I was supposed to marry a man in Ogden. He wrote me letters, promised a cabin, chickens, even a place for the baby. You glance down, but he lied. The stranger doesn't look surprised. He stopped writing? He wrote one last time, said he changed his mind, that he wasn't ready, that a man should feel more joy than burden. You laugh once, bitter. Said I'd understand. The stranger's jaw clenches. You always have to understand, don't you? You nod slowly, especially when you're a woman who carries something. He doesn't offer pity, just presence. And somehow, that's more valuable. Outside, the snow has begun to fall. Gentle flakes drifting past the window, soft as the hush of a lullaby. He says, "There's a place I go. When I need quiet, it's not far, just past the ridge." You look at him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it's where I buried the only other person who ever made me feel seen," he says, "and I think she'd like you." You're not sure what to say, so you stand, pull on the coat, and say, "Show me." The wind carries the smell of pine and old ash as you step off the wagon trail and into the trees. Your feet crunch against the frost-hardened path, your breath rising in soft clouds. You should feel colder, but you don't. The coat around you is still warm, and so is the space between you and him, even though neither of you speaks for a while. He walks ahead, guiding with quiet gestures. Not like a man leading a woman, but like someone retracing a route he knows by heart. A trail etched into his bones by grief. The trees thin, and then the clearing opens like a secret that's been waiting for you. A small cabin sits just beyond a rise of stone, tucked beneath an old cedar that leans as if listening. The wood is weathered, the roof patched in places, but the windows are unbroken. A swing made from rope and a sanded plank hangs from one of the lower branches. You stop. There's something holy about the place. "She was my wife," he says, his voice low, "for just over a year." You don't speak. You wait. She died during the fever that swept through in '73. Wasn't enough medicine, wasn't enough anything. He looks at the swing. She used to hum while she cooked, same way you do, not loud, just enough for the house to breathe. You step closer. The ground beneath the cedar is marked with a small stone, no name carved, just a strip of fabric tied around a wooden cross. "She had a child?" you ask. He nods. "We lost him too, 2 days before her." The pain in his voice isn't sharp anymore. It's worn smooth by time, but it's still there, like a scar that weather couldn't fade. You touch the edge of the stone, bow your head, and say nothing. He watches you for a moment. Then, softer than before, he says, "You don't have to tell me everything." But you do, because silence too can rot if you keep it sealed too long. "My wedding was arranged," you begin. "Not like a deal, but close. He was kind at first. My father said I'd be lucky." You walk toward the porch, run your hand along the rail. After 3 months, the kindness vanished. The expectation stayed. "When I lost the first child, he called it my punishment." He closes his eyes, jaw clenched. You continue. "When I got pregnant again, he left. Said he couldn't take the burden. Said I was too quiet, too needy, too much." You smile bitterly. Funny how they always say too much, right, when they decide you're not enough. He steps beside you. "You're not too much," he says, and he means it. You feel it in your bones. You stay in the cabin that night. There's a fire already stacked in the hearth. You light it. You sweep the floor. You boil tea in a dented pot you find tucked beneath the counter. He doesn't try to touch you, but when your hands shake lighting the fire, he covers yours with his, just once, steady, warm, sure. And for the first time in months, you fall asleep without flinching at every sound. Outside, the wind picks up again, but inside something finally settles. Not safety, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. By morning, the snow has melted to a quiet drizzle. The air smells like wet cedar. And something else, earth, maybe, or rebirth. You sit on the front step of the cabin, cradling a chipped mug of sassafras tea. The baby kicks, a gentle nudge against your ribs, like he's stretching, like he too is waking into something new. The stranger steps out beside you, doesn't say good morning, doesn't need to. You sit in silence, watching the fog roll between the trees like a slow tide. Then he says, "There's a train coming west. Could catch it if you left by noon." You nod. "I know." He watches the trailhead, not your face. If you still want to go, you sip the tea, let it burn a little on the way down. "I don't know what I want," you say, and it's true. You came to the station to disappear. Now you're here, in a place no one would think to look. A cabin with no neighbors, no maps, no expectations. A man beside you who never asked your past, never demanded your name in exchange for safety. You could stay. But staying means letting go of the woman you were pretending to be, the bride, the widow, the respectable mother-to-be, and becoming someone else entirely. He speaks again, low, careful. There is a ridge 3 miles west, cuts down to the valley. From there you'd make the train by sundown. I can take you. You look at him. His coat is dusted with mist. There's a line in his brow that wasn't there last night. Not worry, restraint. He won't ask you to stay, and something in you aches at that. You rise, walk to the edge of the porch. The cedar sways gently behind you, its branches humming some old wind-taught lullaby. "There's a thing I haven't told you," you say. He doesn't move, just waits. You take a breath. The baby, he's not from love. The words taste like rust. I wanted to love him. I tried. But when I found out, all I could feel was trapped, shame. My mother would have said I deserved it. Your hand moves to your belly, instinct, but he's still here, still mine. And for the first time in months, I don't want to run. He steps forward, slowly, like approaching a doe that might bolt. "What do you want, Yeshua?" he asks. You lift your head and say, "To stay until I know I'm strong enough not to hide." He nods once, just once. Then walks back inside and returns with a key, places it in your palm without fanfare. "The cabin's yours. I'll be close, but not underfoot." You grip the key. It's warm from his hand, heavy in the best way. He tips his hat, the barest smile at the edge of his mouth. "I'll bring more tea leaves next time." You watch him walk away. Down the trail, through the trees, back to wherever he keeps his grief and his ghosts. The cedar behind you creaks in the wind. Not a warning, not a goodbye, just a sound that says, this is a place where something begins. The cabin has no lock on the inside. At first, that unsettles you, but after 3 days without a knock at the door, or a voice calling your name with expectation or threat, the absence of a lock begins to feel like freedom. You clean the place slowly, not out of duty, but ritual. Scrubbing the floorboards becomes a kind of prayer. Replacing the curtains with torn muslin strips from your old petticoat feels like claiming space. Every chore is a statement. I am not a guest. I am here, You find things tucked away. A child's wooden spoon, whittled smooth at the edges. A quilt made of odd scraps, calico, flannel, burlap, and something that might have been part of a soldier's uniform. In the pantry, behind a jar of pickled onions too old to trust, you find a box. It's cedar, carved with careful lines. A hummingbird on the lid. No lock. You hesitate before opening it. Inside are letters, dozens, maybe more, none addressed, some sealed, some not. You unfold the topmost one. He was only 7 when he asked me why birds don't sing in the snow. I told him it's because they know when the world needs silence. You read 5, then 10. Your belly grows tighter as the baby shifts. You pause, breathe, then you find it. A letter that isn't like the others. The handwriting is different, rushed, slanted like someone who wrote standing up, breathless. To the one who finds this. If you're reading this, you must already know something about sorrow. People who've never lost anything don't usually find cabins like this. I was supposed to leave yesterday, but something about the wind made me stay. If you're still here tomorrow, maybe you'll understand why. You fold the letter carefully, place it back exactly as you found it. That night, you dream of a girl with ash on her hands, hanging laundry on a line while singing the same melody you hum when you stir soup. In the dream, she turns and you see your own face, younger, before shame, before loss. When you wake, the fire's gone low, but you feel something you haven't felt in a long time, belonging, not because of the place, but because someone else left their voice behind, and now it's braided with yours. The next morning he returns, 2 rabbits over his shoulder, a small tin of dried sage and wild tobacco in his coat. He pauses when he sees you on the porch wrapped in a quilt you didn't make, but now call yours. Found the letters? He asks. You nod. She was a writer? She was a listener, he replies. The writing came after. You don't ask if he's read them since. You just say, she wanted someone to find her words. He looks at you like he's seeing something for the first time. Then he says, so did I. And that's when you understand. This isn't just a cabin. It's a place built of unfinished stories. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to write your own. It starts with the smallest thing, a piece of dried lavender tucked into a page of one of her letters. You find it when you're looking for string. The paper falls open on the table, and there it is. A sprig, pressed flat, fragile, but intact. It smells like summer in a place you've never been. A place you feel you almost remember. You bring it to your nose, and you weep, not from grief, not from fear, but from recognition. You know that scent, not from childhood, or from marriage, or from town fairs. You know it from somewhere deeper, a memory carried in your bones. Lavender. Your mother used to keep it in her apron pocket. She never said why. Maybe to calm her hands, maybe to quiet her ghosts, maybe to pass something down to you without ever saying a word. You press the sprig between fresh paper and write your own words beside it. I thought I was too broken to sing again, but you left me your song. Now I carry it, even when I don't know the tune. There's ink on your fingers, smudged, but it feels right. When he returns, you don't hide the letter. You hand it to him across the table. No explanation, no apology. He reads it once, twice, then folds it carefully and places it beside the others in the cedar box. You wrote to her? You ask. He nods. Even after she passed. You reach for the box, hesitate. Then, may I? He lifts the lid. Together, you sift through what she left behind. It's not all poetry and sorrow. Some are short notes about birds, about soup, about boots needing patching. One simply says, "He laughed today, not at me, but near me." I'm keeping that sound. You place your letter among them. And for the first time, it doesn't feel like intrusion. It feels like conversation. That night, by firelight, he tells you how she died. "I went out for sugar, just a mile and back. She was fine when I left." His voice cracks, not from volume, but restraint. "She'd lit a candle. Wind must have caught it. By the time I got back..." He stops. You reach for his hand, not to comfort, but to connect. "We all leave something burning," you whisper. "We just hope someone else finds warmth instead of ashes." He looks at you like you just said something sacred, and maybe you did. Later, you sit by the hearth alone, write another letter. "Dear girl who never left this cabin, I know now why you stayed." It wasn't to be remembered. It was to remind someone else they could begin. You sign nothing. But you tuck a strand of your own hair into the fold, not out of superstition, out of recognition, the kind that says, "I was here too." The storm begins at dusk. At first, it's just a hiss in the trees, wind weaving through the pine like a whisper trying not to be heard. But by nightfall, it howls. You bolt the shutters, stoke the fire high. Move slowly, carefully. Your balance different now with the baby pressing downward. The weight of him feels heavier in storms, as if he knows he doesn't come that night. The stranger. You don't know why you expected him to. You pace, sip hot water. Try to read one of the old letters again, but can't focus on the words. Then there's a knock, just once, firm, then silence. You open the door slowly. He stands there soaked through, hair dripping, eyes wild. He doesn't ask to come in, just looks at you. "I didn't know where else to go." You step aside without a word. He drips onto the floorboards, stands near the fire without removing his coat. Something about him is different, quieter, or maybe louder inside. You kneel by the hearth, stirring the embers. He finally speaks. "I told you she died in a fire, that's true, but I didn't tell you the rest." You look up. "I lit the candle," he says. You blink. He's still staring into the flames. "She was pregnant. We'd argued that day, about something stupid. I left angry. Storm was coming. I told her I'd be back before dark." He closes his eyes. "I forgot the matches. Doubled back, that's why I was late." You feel your breath catch. "I came up the trail, saw the glow before I smelled the smoke, ran, but it was already..." His voice breaks off. You rise, step close, touch his hand, not because you forgive him, but because he hasn't asked for that. "I didn't save her," he whispers. "I couldn't." You nod once. "I know, Ted." He turns to you then, finally, and you see it. The truth that lives behind the scar, behind the steady silence. He's never stopped being there, in that moment, that fire, that mistake. "I can't love anyone again," he says. You breathe in. "Good," you whisper. "Neither can I." The storm rattles the windows. But the wind sounds different now, not like fear, like a cleansing. You make tea. Pour it without asking. Sit beside him on the floor, your legs aching, your hands wrapped around the warm cup. Neither of you speaks for a long while. When he finally falls asleep, head resting against the wall, one hand still holding the cedar box, you cover him with a quilt and whisper one line of the lullaby. Just one. But it's enough. You wake before dawn. The storm has passed, but the wind has left everything changed. Branches down, snow flattened, silence thick as wool. You move quietly, making tea, folding the quilt, careful not to wake him. But he's already watching. From the chair near the hearth, eyes soft, expression unreadable. "You sang," he says. You nod. I wasn't sure if I remembered how. He leans forward, elbows on knees. What was it for? You hesitate, then sit across from him, cradling your cup. "My sister," you begin. "She was born wrong. That's what the midwife said. Legs too weak, lungs too small. She couldn't walk past 12, couldn't stand without shaking." You smile, not from joy. "She'd ask me to sing when the pain was bad, said it helped her breathe." He listens like every word matters. "I used to think the singing was for her, but after she passed, I realized it was for me." You meet his gaze. Because screaming wasn't allowed, but humming was. He looks down, then back up. "She was lucky to have you. She was the only person who made me feel like I was real." You swallow hard. "And after she died, I stopped singing." He doesn't move. "But you hummed at the station," he says. You nod. "I didn't even know I was doing it. Maybe I was praying. Maybe I was just trying not to disappear." He shifts, reaches for the box of letters, opens it, slides one out, not one of hers, one of his. "I wrote this after the war," he says. "Never mailed it, didn't even sign it, just folded it and hid it like the others." He hands it to you. You open it. Read. "If I make it back, I'll find the girl with the voice like snowfall. I don't need her name, just need to know she exists. That somewhere, someone still believes a broken man might be allowed to listen." You hold the page gently. It trembles slightly in your hand. "I didn't know you were looking for me," you whisper. He smiles, but it's hollow. "I wasn't." You blink. "I was just hoping to feel that sound again, the way it settled the air." You fold the letter slowly. "I was trying to feel alive again, too." He nods. Silence folds around you, thick but tender. The fire pops. The baby kicks. You both look toward the sound, not just movement, but presence. "I still don't know what kind of mother I'll be," you whisper. He says, "The kind who sings when the world says hush. The kind who sings." You rise. Walk to the window. Outside, the snow reflects soft pink from the rising sun. The world is quiet but not empty. And in your chest, there's something open now, not healed, but willing. You hum, just a few notes. And this time, you don't care who hears, because the sound is yours again. It happens just past dusk, the fire's burning low, and your hands are wrapped around a bowl of rabbit stew when the baby shifts. Not a flutter this time, but a jolt. You gasp. He's on his feet instantly. You set the bowl down, press your hand to your belly, feel it again. The unmistakable kick of a life with lungs and will and timing of his own. You laugh, then cry, then both at once. He kneels beside you, one hand hovering near yours, but not touching. "Here," you whisper, taking his hand gently, pressing it over the curve where the baby moved. Wait. For a second, nothing. Then another kick, stronger. He exhales sharply. "That's him," you say. Or her. I haven't dared name it yet. He doesn't ask why, doesn't say anything sentimental. Just rests his palm there for a little longer, steady and warm and present. The fire crackles. The snow falls again outside, soft and slow like ash from a quiet heaven. Then he says, "May I offer you something?" You look at him. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a thin band of rawhide, knotted at the center with two tiny beads, one red, one bone white. "This belonged to my mother," he says. She wore it when she carried me, said it was for strength. You reach for it with both hands. He ties it gently around your wrist, the knot firm but not tight. Now it's yours. You can't speak. You just nod, once. Later, when you're cleaning the bowls and the cabin has fallen into the rhythm of night, you sit by the window and speak quietly. Not to him, but to the child. You have no father, you whisper, but you have someone who listens. You run your hand over your belly again, and now, so do I. The lullaby rises from your throat without permission. You don't stop it, and for the first time in your life, you don't sing it for someone else. You sing it for yourself. The knock doesn't sound like his. It's too sharp, too fast. 2 short raps in silence, followed by the crunch of impatient boots pacing on frost. You freeze mid-step, one hand on the kettle. Your heart kicks faster than the baby ever could. He's out gathering kindling. Said he'd be back before nightfall. That was an hour ago. Another knock, then a voice. Evenin'? Anyone home? Not his voice. Lower, slick. Like someone used to getting yes before they asked twice. You slide the kettle off the fire. Move to the door. Don't open it. What do you want, Go, you call, trying to sound stronger than you feel. A pause. Then, just passing through, saw smoke, wondered if a warm meal might be shared. You peer through the edge of the curtain. 3 men, one leaning on a rifle like it's a cane, another smoking with the kind of ease that says he doesn't ask permission. The third. Your blood runs cold, the scar above his left eye, the jacket, the boots. One of them was at the station, the day you arrived. And suddenly, you know, they're not here by accident. They're looking for him. You back away from the door. The baby kicks hard. You grab the fire poker and retreat to the corner of the cabin. Your breathing's too loud, too fast. A shout outside, then a thud, a scuffle. You rush to the window and see him, your stranger, fighting 2 of them, his fists fast and sure. The third raises his rifle. You scream. The sound cuts through the night like lightning. He looks up, just in time to duck. The shot hits the wood above the cabin door, splinters spraying like pine needles in a storm. You throw open the door. Get inside, he yells. But you don't move because the third man, the one with the rifle, is turning it on you now. Then, another sound. Not a gun, a howl. Low, long, inhuman. The men freeze. He uses the moment, knocks one out cold, swings hard at the other. The rifle clatters to the ground. He rushes towards you. This place isn't safe anymore, he says, panting, eyes burning. We have to go. But why? They weren't here for you. He grabs your coat, your bag, helps you onto the horse waiting behind the cabin, a black mare you hadn't even heard arrive. They were here for me, he says as he mounts behind you. You grip the reins with shaking hands. Why? He doesn't answer, just whispers, hold on. And you ride. Into the woods, into the night, not because it's safe, but because it's the only direction left that doesn't smell like smoke and blood. The lullaby doesn't come this time, not yet, but its silence carries something else, resolve. You lose him in the snow. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. The trail was clear, the moon full. He rode ahead just a few feet, scouting the ridge that curved toward shelter. Then the gunshot, one sharp crack, then silence. You called out, no answer. You slid from the horse, the baby twisting inside you like he knew, like your fear became his. You stumbled through pine and shadow, calling his name, your breath catching on tree limbs, your voice thin against the wind. But the forest gives no answers. only silence. You find blood, not much, just a smear across a flat rock and a broken branch hanging limp like a wound. You press your hand there. It's still warm. He's alive. Or was. Your legs tremble, but you don't stop. You push forward, through frost, over fallen logs, past the river bend where the ice hasn't fully settled. Then your foot catches. You fall hard. Hands scraped, knees wet, belly aching with sudden weight. You press your palms to the snow, try to rise. You can't. The pain cuts sharp and low. Not now. You look up at the sky, black and blurring at the edges. Then, like it's not you doing it, your mouth opens. And you sing, not the whole song, just the verse he finished in the station. You don't sing it for rescue, you sing it because it's the only thing you still know how to do when everything else is broken. The trees don't answer, but the wind changes. A shadow emerges through the mist. You blink. He's there, staggering, one hand pressed to his side, blood soaking the front of his coat, but walking toward you, drawn by your voice. He drops beside you. You're hurt, you whisper. He shakes his head. No, you're in labor, you laugh, a breathless, broken sound. Of course I am. He lifts you gently, like something sacred, carries you to a hollow beneath the cliff. Draw hidden, protected from the wind. He builds a fire with trembling hands, boils snow, rips cloth. You grip his hand with every contraction. He doesn't let go, not once. And when the pain crests and your body splits itself into something new, you scream. Then you sing. At the same time, because that's how birth happens in a world like this, in pain and in melody. The child's cry breaks through the dawn. And your hands hold a son, your son. And as you rock him against your chest, blood still warm between you, your voice rises again. This time not in fear, not in sorrow, but in something else entirely, claiming. Morning breaks, soft and slow, light curling through pine like fingers reaching gently for your face. You sit against the cave wall, the baby tucked inside your shawl, skin to skin, heart to heart. His breathing is steady, his hands impossibly small, twitch in sleep as if remembering something ancient. He sleeps with one hand near his ear, just like your sister used to. You don't cry, not now. You've cried enough rivers to fill the valleys behind you. The stranger, the man who once listened before he spoke, who fought not to be known, who now sleeps beside the fire with a bandage blooming red beneath his ribs, stirs. You watch his chest rise and fall, still here, still choosing not to run. You reach for the cedar bracelet still tied at your wrist. One of the beads is chipped now. You touch it softly, like a relic, like a vow. The baby whimpers, you lift him gently, nestle his face against your collarbone, hum the low note first, then the others. The song doesn't need words anymore. It lives in you now, in muscle, in blood, in memory. He stirs again, opens his eyes. You meet his gaze. He needs a name, you say. He nods. So do you. You blink. I have one. No, he says gently. You have the one they gave you. What do you call yourself? You think. Of the train you never boarded, the man who never showed, the promises you sang to a sister who vanished into cold dirt, and the woman who stood in snow and sang anyway. You breathe deep. I call myself Lark. He smiles. Lark, he repeats like a prayer. You hand him the baby. He holds him with awe, not as possession, but as offering. You think he'll sing too? He asks. You nod. If we teach him, outside the sky is pale and wide. The world waits, no roads, no tracks, no expectations. Only the soft sound of your son breathing, and the way your name fits your mouth now, not like something borrowed, but something earned. You bury the letter beneath the cedar, not because there's a grave, but because some goodbyes need to be placed in the ground, where silence knows what to do with them. The wind is still. The branches don't creak, not yet. You walk the baby to the edge of the glade, his head cradled against your chest, his breathing soft, steady. He hasn't cried since the cave. As if he knows you need the stillness more than he needs the noise. The man, the one who knew your voice before your name, stands beside you. His arm still wrapped tight, pain shadowing his brow, but he doesn't speak of it. He just watches the line where forest meets sky and waits. You don't have to stay, you say. He looks at you. I'm not staying. Your heart skips. Then he adds, I'm building. You turn, brow raised. A home, he says. Not just a cabin someone else left behind, one we make together. If you want that, you nod, not because it's safe, but because it's true. He steps closer, presses something into your hand, a pendant, carved bone, shaped like a singing bird. It was hers, he says. She'd want you to have it. You press it to your heart, say nothing. Then you walk together, up toward the bend in the trees where sun filters down like blessing. The baby stirs. And you sing, low, soft. Not a lullaby now, but a hymn to survival, to choosing, to naming yourself in the open air where no one can take it away again. Behind you, the cedar sways once, just enough to let the birds begin.